Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another video. Today we're going to talk about never ever behaviors for each type, or you might say more accurately, never ever behaviors to do to each type. My wife is a brain trainer. She works with people of all different abilities, all different ages, to help them develop their processing skills mentally so that they're able to accomplish and become everything that they're to the best of their abilities. And she talks about when she deals with children and with parents who are dealing with children with behavior problems, never ever behaviors that are never appropriate, such as throwing tantrums in a store, that kind of thing. There's never ever a reason to behave like that. And these are never ever behaviors for each type or in relationships with each type. So let's start with the one. This is something I ran across on the internet, and maybe you haven't seen it, maybe you have, but I just wanted to give some thoughts and reflections on it today. The never ever behavior to do to a type 1, is to criticize a 1. Never ever criticize a type 1 person. And I think that probably comes from the idea that they're trying to always do the right thing. They're always trying to be good. Or I should say it's within their personality to always try to do that. They may not, but depending on their health level, or they may be just trying to push against their personality. Once they discover the Enneagram, they may say, hey, if I have this impulse to always be good, what would happen if I worked against that impulse, tried to stretch myself and be bad for an hour, Well, I think this comes from the idea that if it's within your impulse or your compulsion to always try to do the right thing and be good, then it can be very difficult for you to hear that you did something wrong. And I think it's very difficult. I think ones find it difficult to apologize in the sense of admitting wrong, because that's the whole shenanigan. That's the whole deal, is I'm not going to do things that I believe are wrong. I'm not going to do things that I think are inconsistent. And to own that and say, I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing, I was bad, that is an overwhelming thought, I think, to most ones. And so criticizing a 1, realize you're going out and telling them that, the whole thing they're working for to be good, that they've, not achieved that. So the never ever behavior for a 2, the giver, the helper, is to take a 2 for granted. So never take a 2 for granted. And that's probably speaking to the fact that most of us do. My wife is a 2, and it's easy to take her for granted. She's the 2-wing 1, or it's called the servant. And, that's her personality. She wants to serve. She wants to help. She wants to give. She wants to take care of you. And, with 5 kids in the house, we let her. And we should be more careful, more responsible, not to take her for granted. I don't think she enjoys washing dishes or cleaning up after us, or doing all those chores any more than anybody else does, but she maybe just feels more compelled to do those things because it's within her nature to want to give and want to serve. It's easy for those that live with a 2 to take that person for granted and just sort of think, oh, well, their superhuman power is they want to give and they want to take care of and they want to, help me. So I'm going to let them do that as much as they want to. And, they, like anybody else, would like to be appreciated for what they're doing, and maybe more so than other types want to be appreciated. Although 2s, are never going to ask for that because they don't have any needs. They try to act like or think like they don't have any needs, but they do. They have needs. And so, make sure you don't take them for granted. If you want to, get in close with that person that's a 1, for example, tell them you appreciate what a great job they did and how conscientious they are and how much attention to detail, that they gave. If you want to draw in close and build a relationship with a 2, then appreciate them and say, wow, thank you so much for what you did for me. And they'll say, oh, it was nothing. But inside, there's probably something else going on. They're glad to receive that appreciation and to be noticed. All right, what's the never ever behavior for a 3? The achiever. Well, the never behavior, in a relationship with a 3 is to ignore them. They probably want to be admired. Their sense of worth comes from what they've accomplished or how admirable they are. And so It's at your own detriment to ignore them. Acknowledge what they've done. Acknowledge what they've accomplished. I mean, I'm not saying feed into the dangers of their personality type, but it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you to notice what they did, notice what they accomplished, notice, what they've achieved, and say, wow, that took a lot of effort. I'm proud of you. People just don't hear that anymore in our culture. I'm proud of you. And you can really build people up and encourage them, which I know you want to do. You can really build people up and encourage them by telling them how proud you are of them. And this probably means more to threes than anything else you could say to them. Man, I'm really proud of you. And to be sincere about it. You may not necessarily be driven or compulsed to accomplish all these things or achieve or to be admired and all that, but recognize they are. And if you come alongside of them, point at what they did and say, wow, that's awesome. That must have taken a lot of effort and a lot of dedication on your part. And, I really can appreciate somebody who works so hard, to accomplish so much. Something like that I think is going to go a long way. But, the worst thing you can do is just ignore it. And I know if you've got an unhealthy three in your life, they may be just piling on one accomplishment after another, and you can see through it, and you may feel like, I'm not going to acknowledge them. I'm not going to notice it. I'm not going to give them the feedback they want from me. Well, why do that? I mean, the healing's not going to come for them as long as, they're stuck in that state. So maybe give them what they're after and tell them, how much you admire them and how much you appreciate them, and let them feel what they're needing to feel, that sense of worth and value, and then maybe say something, that counteracts that. Maybe say something like, it's something that speaks to them as a person rather than what they've accomplished. So you may start with something like, wow, it's amazing what you've done. You got a great report card. You did so good. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. You worked really hard. You're very dedicated to that. And, I really appreciate people that can work hard like that and be focused like that. And as they kind of puff themselves up and smile and feel that sense of worth, then you might say something that helps them detach from that, from finding their worth that way, and say, but even if you didn't accomplish all that, I love you for who you are. Something, along those lines. All right, never ever behavior for a 4, the individualist. I think to some degree, what's true for the 3 that was just on here is probably true for the 4 too. Ignoring a 4, that probably isn't something that they appreciate either. Even if 4s can sometimes stand out, sometimes for the wrong reasons, they don't want to be ignored. They may do things to draw attention to themselves, but they don't want you to be apathetic toward them. But here's what it says for the 4. Never tell a 4 what to do. Never ever tell a 4 what to do. I had to think about that. That's probably because 4s want to be authentic and genuine to themselves. And they want to be real. And they want to act on what they feel is the right thing or the right course of action. And so when you tell a 4 what to do, it's as if you're minimizing their own sense of what they feel they should do and their own authenticity. And you're saying, hey, I think you need to do it like this, the way I think. And 4s are going to have that creative edge, see the differences, see the distinctions, differentiate themselves. And so if you tell a 4 what to do, they probably, are either going to do it very frustrated, or they're going to do it in their own unique way, or they're just not going to do it. 4s and 8s tend to think that the rules don't apply to them. They sort of look down on those laws. Laws are for normal people, and 4s, kind of as their personality at their core is, I'm not a normal person, so the laws don't apply to me. So the never ever behavior for a 4 is to tell them what to do. Not get their input, not let them talk about it, just assign it to them. 1's probably like that. I don't know. I'm not a 1, but I would think that 1's probably, tell me what to do. Give me the rules, give me the parameters, and I'll follow them out. I'll carry them out. I'll accomplish it. I'll get it done. All right. Never ever behaviors for a 5, or what to never do to a 5. Never underestimate a 5. Never underestimate a 5. And I think that's probably true. 5s in their unhealth can look like 7s in the sense that they're kind of bouncing around. I like to think of it as lunging. They're lunging their information where it's not wanted. They're lunging into conversations and dominating them with facts and statistics. They're lunging at things and sort of kind of, frolicking without any real sense of purpose and direction. Unhealthy 5s. Healthy 5s, on the other hand, are challengers. They look like an 8. They challenge you with information. They challenge you at just the right moment, at the right time, with the right information to make a difference. Never underestimate a 5. Never underestimate their knowledge. It's amazing. I know I have a lot of 5s in my life, and the trivial pursuit knowledge that these people contain is just astounding. You just bring up a random fact. You hear a random fact. Like the other day I was talking with a 5 and somebody said something about parking on the street. Is it okay? And we live in Florida in a neighborhood, and somebody says, and a lot of people park in their grass and they don't park on the road because they don't want their cars to get in the way of traffic. So they park on their, that little space between your sidewalk and the street, that little space. They park there often instead of parking in the grass. And we don't have mud in Florida, we just have sand, and so your car doesn't get stuck. And we were having this conversation about, is it appropriate to park in the street? Is it appropriate to park in that? And somebody brought up about whether or not you as a homeowner own the land between your sidewalk and your street, that little strip of grass. Is that owned by the homeowner, or is that owned by is that right of way of the street? Is that owned by the city? And immediately, there was a 5 in the room. Immediately, they knew the answer to it. And it's like, how do you know that stuff? But they just know stuff. Their net is always out, so to speak, and they're always absorbing information and taking it in. And it's amazing the stuff that 5s just pick up and keep. I hear a lot of stuff and learn a lot of stuff, and then it just kind of like disappears. But never underestimate a 5. Their ability to focus, their ability to concentrate, their ability to reason and think things through, and then to give counsel, without all the emotional disturbance. They can give counsel. Now, where it comes into a problem sometimes is 5s don't always initiate action. They don't always take action. They have this wealth of information, but it can be hard for them to transition into action. So never underestimate a 5 ability to sort things out, reason it out, gather the information, give you the correct answers, give you the correct information. Okay. All right. The never ever behavior for a 6. The loyal skeptic. The team player. What's the never behavior for the team player? Is never ever, and you guys that are 6s probably already know what's coming. Never ever lie to a 6. Never ever tell a lie to a 6. And I think that probably comes from the fact that 6s want to know they can depend on you. That's the whole thing. Is they feel like their internal guidance system has been. Now they don't necessarily. If you don't know anything about the Enneagram, then you don't understand why you need people to be loyal to you and why you show so much loyalty to others. Those of you guys that understand the Enneagram understand that the reason why is because 6s, it's like a monkey wrench has been thrown into their internal guidance system, and they're not sure that they can sort things out for themselves all the time. They need and want people around them, experts around them, loyal friends around them that will help them process whether things are threats, whether things are, potential threats, or whether things are okay. And so they're always taking in the information. They're really close to that 5 there. They're taking in the information, and they're reasoning and problem solving and troubleshooting. And if you lie to them, then you're not somebody that's dependable and reliable. And they'll remember that, because it's like a red flag went up that said, this person is not trustworthy, this person is not reliable, this person is not dependable. Scratch them off the list. Do not count on them when you are in a crisis. You've been identified, you've been marked, so to speak. So I think, a 6 would rather you just tell them the truth no matter how bad it is, so that they know they can trust you. And they'll probably appreciate it. Even if it's hard for them to hear it, they'll appreciate the fact that you trusted them with this information. that you didn't lie to them. And maybe they'll even say, wow, I know that really had to be hard for you. I mean, the mental process in their mind is it had to be really hard for them to come and tell me this. It wasn't easy for them to own up to it. So they are a very reliable, trustworthy person. It takes somebody trustworthy to do that to them. I think to apologize to a 6 is probably similar. You know, when you go to them and say you're wrong, you're sorry, you did the wrong thing. You know, just like a 1, it's really hard for 6s to own up to I did something wrong, because, you know, the zombie apocalypse is always ready to come after the 6. They always feel like the wolf pack is chasing them. And if they say out loud, I did the wrong thing, you know, for a 1, that's going against their whole personality. For a 6, then that's identifying yourself as, I deserve to be fired. I deserve your scorn and hatred. I deserve for you to reject and turn against me. So it's very hard for 6s, I think, to own up to, I did the wrong thing, because now the zombies are going to get me. And when you apologize to a 6 and say, I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing, I shouldn't have said that, they realize, wow, that was really hard for you to say that. And so you've just identified yourself as a reliable, trustworthy person to them. So don't lie to a 6, okay? They will sniff you out, all right? They are problem solvers, and they will stay on your case until they, you know, figure out what the truth is. All right, number 7, what's a never ever behavior for the 7? And besides with the 6 is they want to be connected to you. And if you lied to them, then they can't be connected to that. And so now they've lost a connection, and now they feel less safe. Okay, so the 7. All right, what is the never ever behavior for you when you interact with a 7? Never try to control a 7. Never try to control a 7. Okay, well, I am a 7, so I think I understand this. Is 7s want freedom. 7s suffer from the fear. It's a fear type. 7s suffer from the fear that they're missing out on something, and so they want to keep their options open. They want to know that on a dime we can spin and pivot and do something else. If this isn't fun, if this gets boring, if this loses its excitement, 7s want to be able to pivot, shift, and go in a different direction. They want to keep their options open. They want to keep their escape hatch open, you might say. So that if party is getting dull or something's getting monotonous, they can hit the escape hatch and jet and go in a different direction that is more stimulating, more exciting, more revved up, okay? And when you try to control a 7, it's like you're hemming them in and you're saying, you're stuck. You're stuck here in this situation. You're stuck here in this task. You're stuck here in this job. And you need to just, you know, and that's what it feels like when a 7 goes to 1 in stress. Is the 1, I think, you know, the Bob Cratchit who sits in the office, no coal in the fireplace, doing their work, you know, the accountant. There you go. 1s would make great accountants because it's details, it's get it right, it's correct everything. 7s, on the other hand, that's what it feels like, is when you're controlled in a controlled environment, you know, it's like you're stuck in Bob Cratchit land, okay? I'm making a reference to the Christmas Carol, if you guys don't know. Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, which, by the way, Scrooge was a 5. So if that's helpful to you. All right, remember their sin is envy, or not envy, but greed, avarice, right? The 4 is envy. Okay, so never try to control a 7. Now that doesn't mean, here's the sad thing, is 7s probably need the most control. They probably need to marry, you know, somebody that's a 1 or a 2 or something like that, that will put the brakes on them a little bit, you know. They probably benefit from a good 1 in their life, you know, to help them say, wait, now we don't need to get the credit card out and spend a bunch of money. We don't need, you know, more. We can settle for less, all right, and learn to settle for less. That's where 7s can learn a lot from 5s, which is where 7s go in health, is 5. So never try to control a 7, although 7s probably need somebody to help them find self-control. There we go. Self-control. 7s need to find self-control. All right, number 8. What's the never-ever behavior for the challenger? If you have a challenge in your life, what's the never-ever behavior? Never betray an 8's trust. Never betray an 8's trust. Well, you know, okay, the 8, I've got some 8s in my life, and I love them. They have huge hearts. It's kind of under that crunchy, crusty shell, but it's there, okay? And this huge heart think of it like this. There's a little boy, a little girl inside there that is still like a little child, but it's all under this suit of armor, right? And so they've got this suit of armor around them that says people are out to get you, people are going to turn on you, people are not trustworthy. And not only that, but kind of like sometimes I think like people are stupid. People are stupid, they need to get out of my way. They need to get out of the way, they need to move their junk, they need to put their junk back in their yard, get it out of my yard. People are going to try to get stuff over on you. Now, if you have that kind of mentality, that people are faceless robots or people are out to get you, then you're going to be very careful about what people you let in. And if you've let people in, then they're in, okay? They're inside the fort. Everybody else on the outside of the fort either is nobodies or are hostile, okay? So 8s kind of have that fort mentality. Now, if somebody's in the fort, that means I trust them. That means I care about them. That means I love them. And which, by the way, is kind of interesting because when 8s love you, they'll banter with you. They'll argue with you. Not argue like be mean and nasty, but just argue information with you and argue about information. And they want to test you and see if you really believe what you believe. They want to instill courage in you. And their way of connecting with you is to kind of like banter. It seems like arguing. If you can understand that about an 8, then when they argue with you, don't. If you're a 2, you don't ever want to argue, or you're a 9, you don't ever want to argue, right? And you think this is bad, they're arguing with me. No, for 8s, it's kind of like I trust you that you can handle disagreements. And this is the way that I show how much I love you and trust you and how close I am to you is I'm real, and I'll debate information with you and argue with you. So recognize that, and you don't need to be scared when an 8's arguing with you or when they're coming across very heated and very strong opinion with you. They're just opening up their heart to you, okay? Something awesome to know about an 8. So an 8 has taken you inside the fort, and then now you get a knife out and you start stabbing citizens in the street. Oh, well, now what? You got to get kicked out of the fort, right? If you've proven yourself as an untrustworthy person, you've lied to them, you've went behind their back and shared information about them with people that didn't need to know, or you're working in opposition to them in some way, they sense that you're working in opposition to them in some way, then you've identified yourself now as a hostile, and the worst kind of hostile because you've been let in on the inside. And then when the 8 pushes you out and kicks you out, it's probably going to be a violent, outburst. When they push you outside the fort, it just further solidifies in their mind, the shenanigan that people can't be trusted. It just further evidence for them that, see, I was right. I've been right all along. I trusted this person. I let them into the fort. I let them into my life. I became vulnerable with them. I shared my heart with them, and they betrayed my trust. And it just goes to prove you can't trust people. And, that crusty shell just gets another layer of crust on it. So don't betray the trust of an 8. Okay, the last one, number 9, peacemaker. I got so many 9s in my life, and I love them. They're just so easy to get along with. They are just likable people. I appreciate all you 9s out there. It takes a lot of work to be so likable. It takes a lot of effort to be so conscientious and friendly and kind. You have to sit on a lot of your own desires, and you may not even know you're doing it. And that's what the Enneagram teaches us, is even 9s, you may not even be aware of how much work and energy you're exhausting to be so easygoing and likable. So let me just tell you, I appreciate it. All right, what is the never ever behavior in relating to a 9? Never ever talk over a 9. Wow. Now, that's easy to do, isn't it? If you have a relationship with a 9, then often they will let you talk over them. When they tell a story, the storytelling type of each, that's another video sometime we'll do, the story, the speaking type of each the speaking style of each type. There you go. For a 7, it's storytelling. For the 9, it's the saga, which means, I think when 9s are telling you something that happened in their life, they include details that are not necessarily pertinent, in my mind, to the story. 7s tell a story. When 7s tell you what happened in their life, it's almost like they set it up like it's a comedy show, or like there's a punchline to it, right? If you're a 7, you know what I'm talking about. Or you live with a 7, you know what I'm talking about. But with a 9, they kind of meander through a story. They meander through the day's events, and they highlight points that aren't necessarily important to the overall punchline of the story. There may not even be a punchline to the story. And I think it comes from the fact that, remember, the 9, the 9 has, as their discerning statement or their distinctive statement in life, is to value every viewpoint. In other words, every viewpoint ought to be listened to so that you get a better understanding and then know how to act, right? So I think what the 9 is doing is they kind of think, when I tell you what happened today, you may not understand why I did what I did unless you understand all the details that caused me to make the decisions that I made. And so they're going to share with you points along that story that may not seem like important to you because they're small, minute details that affect the 9's decision to act the way they did, but you don't necessarily see why those points would affect that decision. But to them, it affected their decision-making process, and so it's an important part of the story. It's an important detail that if you understood it, then maybe you would understood why they acted in the way they did. So never ever talk over a 9. I think it's easy to do because 9s, remember, their working assumption is what I have to say is not all that important. My input's not all that important. And so it is, but that's kind of their operating system. And so when you talk over them, if you're an assertive type, like an 8, 3, or a 7, and you talk over, or sometimes 1s could be very assertive. In their compliance, they can be very assertive. If you talk over the 9, you kind of further reinforce their idea that what they have to say isn't important. What they have to say doesn't really matter. And so you want to be careful to slow down and pay attention. That's the way you can show respect to the 9, is slow down and let them get it out and pay attention to what they're saying. And if it helps you, you might summarize what they're saying or summarize the points they've made, and they'll go, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's to show that you've listened to them and to take the time to really listen to them, because I think probably a lot of people don't, but they have something to say. I mean, some of the greatest poets, songwriters, and entertainers have been 9s, and so they have something to say. But sometimes we can get kind of rushed, and we rush them so that they don't get out everything that they want to say. All right, well, I hope this video has been helpful to you. I find it interesting. Never ever behaviors, and I hope it helps you in your relationships and also helps you understand why maybe you've gotten frustrated with people when they've displayed these never behaviors to you. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate your comments, and it's encouraging to me to know that you're benefiting from these videos. And if it's helpful to you, share it with somebody else. Maybe it'll be helpful for them as well. And always, guys, be present to life. Don't miss what's right in front of you because you're looking for something else, you're looking for something better, or you're looking for something that's more right, or you're looking for somebody that appreciates you, or you're looking for something that's more awesome and will get you a diploma or a certificate, or you're looking for something that will differentiate you and set you apart. Be present to life and live the life that's right in front of you. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.